Hello everyone, this is Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on paper 101, The Real Nature of Religion, and we're on section 5, Religion Expanded by Revelation, and that starts on page 1110.4, or in any of the other books, paper 101.5.1. And let's start with a little prayer. Started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might study this wonderful revelation. Pray that you'll be with us tonight and open our hearts and minds that we might remember and teach other people what we learn, that they might discover the joy of this wonderful revelation to mankind. We thank you and we give you the praise in your Son's name, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. All right. Revelation. Expanded by religion. Revelation is a technique whereby ages upon ages of time are saved in the necessary work of sorting and shifting the errors of evolution from the truths of spirit requirement. What is that?
Robin.
Oh. What they're talking about here is the difference between revelation and evolution, right? And what it does is revelation saves us time in the fact that it helps us to understand the errors in evolution and what is required to become a spiritual being, the spirit acquirement, right? The truths of spirit acquirement. In the next paragraph. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
5. Science deals with facts. Religion is concerned only with values. Through enlightened philosophy, the mind endeavors to unite the meanings of both facts and values, thereby arriving at a concept of complete reality. Remember that science is the domain of knowledge, philosophy is the realm of wisdom, and religion is the sphere of the faith experience. But religion, nonetheless, presents two phases of manifestation. 1, evolutionary religion, the experience of primitive worship, the religion which is a mind derivative. And 2, revealed religion, the universe attitude which is a spirit derivative, the assurance of and belief in the conservation of eternal realities, the survival of personality, and the eventual attainment of the cosmic deity, whose purpose has made all this possible. It is part of the plan of the universe that sooner or later, evolutionary religion is destined to receive the spiritual expansion of revelation.
So what they're going over here is the evolution of religion from the beginning of time. You know, how we started worshiping trees and flowers and plants and all that, all the way up to our concept of God the Father, right? And this religious concept in our religion evolved over millions of years, right? And then the second part of this is the revealed religion. What are they talking about here? They're talking about the information that is revealed to us through the epical revelations to us, right? And that came from the Caligastia 100, right, during the Lucifer Rebellion, before the Lucifer Rebellion, Adam and Eve, Maccabees and Melchizedek, Jesus of Nazareth, and now the Urantia book, right? And that is the revealed religion. This tries to bring our concepts and attitudes to a spiritual derivative of our evolved religion, to something that is a assurance of and belief in our ascension plan and our personality surviving, right? So we've come from worshiping almost nothing to a concept of God, and now we have the assurance of the ascension plan that's been taught to us through all these revelations, right? And that's what they're talking about here. And this is the cosmic deity plan of our survival to find Him, right? God the Father. Which is, if you think about it, it's pretty amazing. The first part of this slide, though, they talk about the meanings and values and the philosophy that gives us a concept of reality as a total. In other words, all that we conceive and know, right? So it's really an explanation of our themes, meanings, and values that gives us our domain of knowledge into reality, right? Rodney, would you take the next one? Oh, I guess I would change this one.
Free will. Both science and religion start out with the assumption of certain generally accepted basics for logical deductions. So, also, must philosophy start its career upon the assumption of the reality of three things. Number one, the material body. Number two, the supermaterial phase of the human being, the soul, or even the indwelling spirit. Number three, the human mind, the mechanism for intercommunication and interassociation between spirit and matter, between the material and the spiritual.
Okay, so you see the three parts? The material, the supermaterial, or the human being, that personality which makes you the soul, right? Or the indwelling spirit. And then the third part is the mind, the human mind, the mechanism for bringing these things together for interassociations and communications, right? So we have the material, the soul, and the mind, right? And if you think about that, the material is given to us by what? The Isle of Paradise, right? All right. The supermaterial, that part of the soul, is given to us through whom? God the Father and God the Son, right? And the third part, the human mind, comes where? From the infinite spirit, right? Three parts that make us who we are.
So that's like a trinity right there.
That's our trinity. That's exactly right. All right, Diane?
Scientists assemble facts, philosophers coordinate ideas, while prophets exalt ideals. Feeling and emotion are invariable concomitant of religion, but they are not religion. Religion may be the feeling of experience, but it is hardly the experience of feeling. Neither logic, rationalization, nor emotion, feeling, is essentially a part of religious experience. Although both may variously be associated with the exercise of faith in the furtherance of spiritual insight into reality, all according to the status and temperamental tendency of the individual mind.
So you don't need this emotional high to experience religion, right? Evolutionary religion is the outworking of the endowment of the local universe mind. Adjutant charged with the creation and fostering of the worship trait in evolving man. Worship and wisdom, that's what makes us different than the animals. Such primitive religions are directly concerned with ethics and morals, the sense of human duty. Such religions are predicated on the assurance of conscience and result in the stabilization of relatively ethical associations. Civilizations, I'm sorry. Civilization. So it's this assurance of conscience and our moral conduct, in essence, right, that helps stabilize civilizations as a whole. All right. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Personally revealed religions are sponsored by the soul spirits, representing the three persons of the Paradise Trinity, and are especially concerned with the expansion of truth. Evolutionary religion drives home to the individual the idea of personal duty. Revealed religion lays increasing emphasis on loving, or the golden rule.
Okay, so one is an evolutionary thing, and the other is a revealed religion type thing, right? All right. Right.
Evolved religion rests wholly on faith. Revelation has the additional assurance of its expanded presentation of the truths of divinity and reality, and still more valuable testimony of the actual experience, which accumulates in conscience and
In consequence.
consequence of the practical working union of the faith of evolution and the truth of revelation. Such a working union of human faith and divine truth constitutes the possession of a character well on the road to the actual acquirement of a Moranchian personality.
And we know the Morancha personality is that of the mansion worlds, right? Okay. It's interesting how the evolved religion rests wholly on faith. In other words, as we evolve, evolutionary, we have faith that there is something greater than ourselves, right? But it's that influx of revelation that gives us the presentation of truth and divinity. And it teaches us basically with the faith, you add that to the revelation, then it gives us the beginning of the Morancha personality, or starts our Morancha moda, right? What's Morancha moda? It's the spiritual aspect that we grow when we hit the mansion worlds. We start the Morancha moda, we start building on it. And the Morancha moda, as we build on it and learn, is what takes us where? To a spirit personality eventually, right? So it's very, very important.
Evolutionary religion provides only the assurance of faith and the confirmation of conscience. Revelatory religion provides the assurance of faith plus the truth of a living experience in the realities of revelation. The third step in religion, or the third phase of the experience of religion, has to do with the Morancha state, the firmer grasp of moda. Increasingly in the Morancha progression, the truths of revealed religion are expanded. More and more you will know the truth of supreme values, divine goodnesses, universal relationships, eternal realities, and ultimate destinies.
Okay, now how does this affect us in this life? By expanding our consciousness and understanding this revealed religion, we can start building our Morancha moda where? Here, right? Instead of waiting to the mansion worlds. So the more you understand this revelation and the more you connect it to your inner faith, the more you build your moda. And that moda is carried with you to the first mansion world, right?
So, universal relationships, I'm just curious about that.
Universal relationships. Let me go back here and see what you're saying about where this is at.
No, I just find it interesting. I guess it means we learn more about the spirit world.
Right, yeah, the universal
That's what this
relationship.
means.
Yeah, they're talking about here, Rodney, is how we fit into the big picture, right? And how the big picture, all the beings of the big picture, relate to one another, right? And how it all comes together.
Relationships, got it.
Yeah, it's relationship. It's kind of like having the cosmic big picture, really. See who's up.
Huge man.
Yeah. I think you're, oh, wow, okay. Increasingly throughout the Morancha progression, the assurance of truth replaces the assurance of faith. When you are finally mustered into the actual spirit world, then will the assurance of pure spirit insight operate within the place of faith and truth, or rather in conjunction with and superimposed upon these former techniques of personality assurance. So as we go from the Morancha beings to the spirit being, it's this assurance, a pure spirit insight replaces the faith. In other words, you know, rather than just having faith in something, that you actually know it. Okay? And it's kind of funny to me because I feel that in this life, if you give yourself up to the leading of the Spirit of God, the adjuster, you can know that assurance right here in this world. Right? But it definitely happens when you hit the Morontia level. Okay.
6. The progressive religious experience. The Morontia phase of revealed religion has to do with the experience of survival, and its great urge is the attainment of spirit perfection. There also is present a higher urge of worship, associated with an impelling call to increase ethical service. Morontia insights entail as ever-expanding consciousness of the sevenfold, the supreme, and even the ultimate.
When you read this, you realize that the Morontia experience, an experience just after death, right, our physical death, and we start our long journey to finding God the Father, we realize that that really is the beginning of our real life, right? Because we do away with all these physical aggravations and that sort of thing. But it's all built around this Morontia phase of going on, surviving, right? And you have to do that to go on. You know, you have to have that faith. And the other thing about the Morontia insight, they're talking about the consciousness of the sevenfold. Who are they talking about? God the sevenfold. You know this other little chart we have behind this picture? You know, that's part of God the sevenfold. Let me minimize this for just a second. That's what this is all about, remember? When we talk about the different levels and everything. And this chart is all about God the sevenfold, including the seven master spirits. Right? Remember that from long, long ago? That's been about 4 or 5 years ago when we did this. Y'all remember?
What a great chart.
Yeah, it worked out really nicely. All right. Who's up, Rodney?
I think it's mine.
Huh? Millions? Oh.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Throughout all religious experience, from its earliest inception on the material level up to the time of the attainment of full spirit status, the adjuster is the secret of the personal realization of the reality of the existence of the Supreme. And this same adjuster also holds the secrets of your faith in the transcendental attainment of the ultimate. The experiential personality of evolving man, united to the adjuster essence of the existential God, constitutes the potential completion of supreme existence and is inherently the basis for the superfinite eventuation of transcendental personality.
What does all this mean? To put it in a very simple format, it means the adjuster is the key to our whole personality realization, who we are. Okay? So as we get closer and closer to fusing with the adjuster, and after we fuse the adjuster, then we really start to understand the attainment of God the ultimate, the later phases of our existence. All right? And it's the uniting with the adjuster, the fusing with the adjuster, that gives us an understanding of the existential God, a God that has no beginning, no end. okay? And it's through that adjuster, fusing with that adjuster, full understanding of that comes into being, okay? And because of that experience, it also adds to the God the Supreme, the experiential Supreme. So our experience of fusing with that adjuster and understanding the existential God, then we understand more about the completion of God the Supreme through our own experience and experience through the Supreme. Okay? And that is what they're talking about. This becomes the basis for the superfinite eventuation of a transcendental personality. What are they talking about? We're talking about a personality that's existed through multiple phases, from human, finite, right, to Morontia, the next step up, to the spiritual, next step up, right, to the eventual fusion with God, our adjuster, and the standing before God the Father. And that's our transcendental, eventuation of our transcendental personality that stands before God. Okay? So it's the growing of the flower, right? We start out as the seed and we eventually bloom into the flower, right? Does that make sense?
Good job.
Alright. Okay. Look, you're up here.
Moral will embraces decisions based on reason, knowledge, augmented by wisdom and sanctioned by religious faith. Such choices are acts of moral nature and evidence the existence of moral personality, the forerunner of Morontia personality, and eventually of true spirit status.
So the morals are stepping stones into the next level, right? It's what makes us different than animals. The evolutionary type of knowledge is but the accumulation of the protoplasmic memory material. This is the most primitive form of creature consciousness. Wisdom embraces the ideas formulated from protoplasmic memory and process of association and recombination, and such phenomena differentiate the human mind from mere animal mind. That's what we just said, right? Animals have knowledge, but only man possesses wisdom capacity. Truth is made accessible to the wisdom-endowed individual by the bestowal on such a mind of the spirits of the Father and Sons, the thought adjuster, and the spirit of truth. So because of this worship and wisdom adjutant that's added to humans, we have the capacity for truth, and we have the capacity for the endowments of the thought adjuster, the spirits of the Father and Son, and the Spirit of truth. That's what makes us able to accept these. That's why we're different than the animals. They cannot understand these things. They're wonderful creatures, but they don't have souls like human beings do. All right. Maya, dear. Christ Michael, when bestowed on Urantia, lived under the reign of evolutionary religion up to the time of his baptism. From that moment up to and including the event of his crucifixion, he carried forward his work by the combined guidance of evolutionary and revealed religion, so just like we do. From the morning of his resurrection until the ascension, he traversed the manifold phases of the Morontia life, of mortal transition from the world of matter to that of spirit. After his ascension, Michael became master of the experience of supremacy, God the Supreme, right? The realization of the Supreme and the being the one person in Nebanon possessed of unlimited capacity to experience the reality of the Supreme. He forthwith attained the status of the sovereignty of supremacy in and to his local universe. These things are what it is that made Michael prepared to be sovereign. Up to that time, he was not totally prepared to be sovereign of his local universe. And all master sons must experience this, right? It's part of their experience. And by the time of his, after his resurrection, then he understood the relationship with human beings and the Supreme. Okay, personally. All right. Millie.
With man, the spiritual fusion and resultant oneness with the indwelling adjuster, the personality synthesis of man and the essence of God, constitute him in potential a living part of the Supreme, and ensure for such a one-time mortal being the eternal birthright of the endless pursuit of finality of universe service for and with the Supreme.
So this fusion with the adjuster gives us the right to experience the fruition of the Supreme along with the Supreme. We become children of the Supreme. Right? Rodney.
Hey, I've got to adjust my eye
Okay.
from big print to small. Revelation teaches mortal man that to start such a magnificent and intriguing adventure through space by means of the progression of time, he should begin by the organization of knowledge into idea decisions. Next, mandate wisdom to labor unremittingly at its noble task of transforming self-possessed ideas into increasingly practical, but nonetheless spiritual ideals.
Supernal
Even
ideas.
those concepts which are so reasonable as ideas and so logical as ideals, that the adjuster dares so to combine and spiritualize them as to render them available for such association in the finite mind as will constitute them the actual human complement, thus made ready for the action of the truth spirit of the sons, the time-space manifestations of paradise truth, universal truth. The coordination of idea decisions, logical ideals, and divine truth constitutes the possession of a righteous character, the prerequisite for moral admission to the ever-expanding and increasingly spiritual realities of the Moracha world.
So this makes us ready for the Moracha worlds, right? Just that simple. And it's a requirement for the Moracha worlds. Okay?
The teachings of Jesus constituted the first Urantian religion, which so fully embraced a harmonious coordination of knowledge, wisdom, faith, truth, and love, as completely and simultaneously to provide temporal tranquility, intellectual certainty, moral enlightenment, philosophic stability, ethical sensitivity, God consciousness, and the positive assurance of personal survival. The faith of Jesus pointed the way to finality of human salvation, to the ultimate of mortal universe attainment, since it provided for
One, salvation from material fetters and the personal realization of sonship with God, who is Spirit. 2, salvation from intellectual bondage. Man shall know the truth, and the truth shall set him free. 3, salvation from spiritual blindness. The human realization of the fraternity of mortal beings and the Morachian awareness of the brotherhood of all universe creatures, the service discovery of spiritual reality, and the ministry revelation of the goodness of spirit values. 4, salvation from incompleteness of self through the attainment of spirit levels of the universe and through the eventual realization of the harmony of Haloma and the perfection of paradise. 5. Salvation from self. Deliverance from the limitations of self-consciousness through the attainment of cosmic levels of the Supreme Mind, and by coordination of the attainment of all other self-conscious beings. 6. Salvation from time, the achievement of eternal life, of unending progression in God recognition and God's service. 7. Salvation from the finite, the perfect oneness with deity, and through the supreme by which the creature attempts the transcendental discovery of the ultimate on the post-finaliter levels of the Absolute. Okay, because of these 7 things, it's right to call Jesus what? A Savior.
A Savior.
That's right. This is what Jesus saved us from, not our sins. Right?
No.
This is the salvation that Jesus brought to all mankind and whom else? All creatures of the universe. So he's not the Savior of just this world, but he's the Savior of all the worlds that he created. Right? And in that sense, yes, it's right to call Jesus a Savior. But it's an insult to God to say that Jesus saved us from our sins. Right?
Yeah.
Because we know
We
God.
save ourselves.
We save
We save
ourselves.
ourselves from our sins.
That's exactly right. Jesus saves us from all these other things. Right? Through what? Knowledge. Knowledge of Him, knowledge of spiritual things, knowledge of revelation. Right? It's interesting because Jesus was in physical, the actual revelation himself. Right? Millie.
Such a 7-fold salvation is the equivalent of the completeness and perfection of the realization of the ultimate experience of the Universal Father. And all this, in potential, is contained within the reality of the faith of the human experience of religion. And it can be so contained since the faith of Jesus was nourished by and was a revelatory of even realities beyond the ultimate. The faith of Jesus approached the status of a universe absolute insofar as such is possible of manifestation in the evolving cosmos of time and space.
No.
Oh. Wow. Right? Right.
Through the appropriation of the faith of Jesus, mortal man can foretaste in time the realities of eternity. Jesus made the discovery in human experience of the final Father and his brothers in the flesh of mortal life can follow him along the same experience of Father discovery. They can even attain, as they are, the same satisfaction in this experience with the Father as did Jesus as he was. New potentials were actualized in the universe of Nebadon consequent upon the terminal bestowal of Michael. And one of these was the new illumination of the path of eternity that leads to the Father of all, and which can be traversed even by the moles of material flesh and blood and the initial life on the planets of space. Jesus was and is the new and living way whereby man can come into the divine inheritance, which the Father, as we shall be his, for but the asking. And Jesus, there is abundantly demonstrated both the beginnings and endings of the faith experience of humanity, even of divine humanity.
So Jesus prepared us for the way right into our Moranchi existence, right into our spiritual existence, right? He shows us the path by which we can go from a human being all the way up to standing before God the Father. What a blessing, you know. Think of it this way. What a blessing to live in the time after Jesus,
Yeah,
you know, because
we're blessed for that.
we really are, because of the experience of Jesus.
Yes.
We have experiences that those who came before Jesus did not have the opportunity to learn, right?
And even to be born when we have the ranch book as a
Yeah,
guidance.
yeah.
7, a personal philosophy of religion. An idea is only a theoretical plan for action, while a positive decision is a validated plan of action. A stereotype is a plan of action accepted without validation. The materials out of which to build a personal philosophy of religion are derived from both the inner and the environmental experience of the individual. The social status, economic conditions, educational opportunities, moral trends, institutional influences, political developments, racial tendencies, and the religious teachings of one's time and place all become factors in the formulation of a personal philosophy of religion. Even the inherent temperament and intellectual bent markedly determine the pattern of religious philosophy. Vocation, marriage, and kindred all influence the evolution of one's personal standards of life.
Everything around us that revolves around us influences us, right? And we make the decisions what is around us. Right? A philosophy of religion evolves out of a basic growth of ideas plus experimental living, as both are modified by the tendencies of imitate associates. The soundness of philosophic conclusions depend on keen, honest, and discriminating thinking in connection with sensitivity to meanings and accuracy of evaluation. Moral cowards never achieve high planes of philosophic thinking. It requires courage to invade new levels of experience and to attempt the exploration of unknown realms of intellectual living. This paragraph tells us why many people will never read the Urantia book, right? Because it takes courage to invade new levels of experience, number one, okay? They were told, oh, anything's not of the Bible's of the devil. This is new levels of experience. And to attempt the exploration of unknown realms of intellectual living, this is unknown to almost all of mankind. So it takes courage to go out and think about these things and experiment with these things and weigh them out and see if they fit or not, right? And this book, you have to do it more than any other book out there I've ever seen. Really?
Presently, new systems of values come into existence. New formulations of principles and standards are achieved. Habits and ideals are reshaped. Some idea of a personal God is attained, followed by enlarging concepts of relationship thereto.
It's a growing thing.
Evolving.
Evolving thing, that's right. Rodney, you take the next one.
The great difference between religious and a non-religious philosophy of living consists in the nature and level of recognized values and in the object of loyalties. There are 4 phases in the evolution of religious philosophy. Such an experience may become merely conformative, resigned to submission to tradition and authority, or it may be satisfied with slight attainments, just enough to stabilize the daily living, and therefore becomes early heuristic on such an advantageous
Advantageous level. That's
to,
right.
how do you pronounce that?
Advantageous.
Advantageous level. Such mortals believe in letting well enough alone. A third group progress to the level of logical intellectuality,
Intellectuality. There you
but they're stagnant in consequence of cultural slavery. It is indeed pitiful to behold giant intellects held so securely within the cruel grasp of cultural bondage. It is equally pathetic to observe those who trade their cultural bondage for the materialistic fetters of a science, falsely so called. The fourth level of philosophy attains freedom from all conventional and traditional handicaps and dares to think, act, and live honestly, loyally, fearlessly, and truthfully.
So you have several different types of people. Some of them are bound up in their religious philosophy and the churches they go to and things like that. And some of them are intellectually are very, very smart, right? But they're stupid in the fact that they can't let go and accept revelation in their life to help them grow, right? They're so bound up in what they believe, they forget to think of new ideas. And then you have the other extreme. You have people who are bound to science, bound to nothing, in other words. So they don't want to believe in anything, right? So that's the two extremes, really. All right.
And then you have the fourth.
And we have the fourth, which we hope we are a part of, right?
Oh,
The acid test for any religious philosophy consists in whether or not it distinguishes between the realities of the material and the spiritual worlds, while at the same moment recognizing their unification in intellectual striving and in social serving. A sound religious philosophy does not confound the things of God with the things of Caesar. Neither does it recognize the aesthetic cult of pure wonder as a substitute for religion.
Mysticism, right? There are no great mysteries in the universe. When it comes right down to it. There's only one thing. There's God the Father. That's the great mystery, right? Right. Philosophy transformed that primitive religion, which has largely a fairy tale of conscience, into a living experience in the ascending values of cosmic reality. Very interesting. He uses a fairy tale of conscience. It's pretty much what we came from, if you think about it. Millie.
A, faith and belief. Belief has attained the level of faith when it motivates life and shapes the mode of living. The acceptance of a teaching as true is not faith. That is mere belief. Neither is certainty nor conviction faith. A state of mind attains to faith levels only when it actually dominates the mode of living. Faith is a living attribute of genuine personal religious experience. One believes truth, admires beauty, and reverences goodness. But such an attitude of saving faith is centered on God alone, who is all of these personalities and infinitely more.
Interesting ideas. Rodney.
Belief is always limiting and binding. Faith is expanding and releasing. Belief fixates. Faith liberates. But living religious faith is more than the association of noble beliefs, more than an exalted system of philosophy. It is a living experience concerned with spirit meanings, divine ideals, and supreme values. It is God knowing and serving. Belief may become group possessions, but faith can be submitted to a group. But faith can rise up only in the heart of the individual religions.
All right, you kind of leaped out there for a minute on one of the most important parts of this, Rodney, is but faith must be personal. You can believe something as a group, but to have faith, that's an individual attribute, right? And the theologic beliefs can be suggested to a group, but the faith can only rise up to the individual religionist or the individual member of that group.
To the heart of it.
Heart of it, that's right.
Faith has falsified its trust when it presumes to deny realities and to confer upon its devotees assumed knowledge. Faith is a traitor when it fosters betrayal of intellectual integrity and belittles loyalty to supreme values and divine ideals. Faith never shuns the problem-solving duty of mortal living. Living faith does not foster bigotry, persecution, or intolerance.
So if you use your faith to do any of these things, be a bigot, persecute other people, or intolerant of other types of individuals, your faith has basically defied you. You know, it really has. You are denying reality. You never could. Let's keep going here. Faith does not shackle the creative imagination. Neither does it maintain an unreasoning prejudice toward the discoveries of scientific investigation. Faith vitalizes religion and constrains the religionist heroically to live the golden rule. You know what that is? Do unto others and you would have them do to you. A zeal of faith is according to knowledge, and its strivings are the preludes to sublime peace. You know, if you didn't have anything but just this one paper, what a rule book for living. Really.
Very concise.
Billy, would you take 9 for us, please?
Yes. 9. Religion and morality. No professed revelation of religion could be regarded as authentic if it failed to recognize the duty, demands of ethical obligation which has been created and fostered by the preceding evolutionary religion. Revelation unfailingly enlarges the ethical horizon of evolved religion, while it simultaneously and unfailingly expands the moral obligations of all prior revelations.
It's expanding and opening up of those things that are closed, right? Rodney.
We presume to sit in critical judgment on the primitive religion of man, or in the religion of primitive man. We should remember to judge such savages and to evaluate their religious experience in accordance with their enlightenment and status of conscience. Do not make the mistake of judging another's religion by your own standards of knowledge and truth.
And that becomes difficult once you become enlightened by this book, doesn't it?
That is very difficult.
Yeah.
True religion is that sublime and profound conviction within the soul which compellingly admonishes man that it would be wrong for him not to believe in those Morancha realities which constitute his highest ethical and moral concepts, his highest interpretation of life's greatest values and the universe's deepest realities. And such a religion is simply the experience of yielding intellectual loyalty to the highest dictates of spiritual consciousness.
The search for beauty is a part of religion only insofar as it is ethical and to the extent that it enriches the concept of the moral. Art is only religious when it becomes diffused with purpose, which has been derived from high spiritual motivation. So a lot of things can be art, we don't realize this too, right? Really.
The enlightened spiritual consciousness of civilized man is not concerned so much with some specific intellectual belief or with any one particular mode of living as with discovering the truth of living, the good and right techniques of reaching to the ever-recurring
Reacting.
Reacting.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm going back to the last, there's no paper. I can't start again because there's no period. The good and right techniques of reacting to the ever-recurring situations of mortal existence. Moral consciousness is just a name applied to the human recognition and awareness of those ethical and emerging Morancha values which duty demands that man shall abide by in the day-by-day control and guidance of conduct.
And rules of living, right?
Hmm.
Each and every day. Right.
Though recognizing that religion is imperfect, there are at least two practical manifestations of its nature and function. Number one, the search alert, which philosophic pressure of religion tends to cause man to project his ascension of moral values directly outward into affairs. Oh, the ethical reaction of religion. Number two.
Stop for a second.
Mhm.
Stop for a second
Okay.
there. And what is that? It's how we act around our fellow men and women, right? That's a philosophic pressure, and religion tends to make us do these moral things outwardly and to show other men how we live, right? And that's what Jesus did, if you think about it. Okay, go on to the second one. Right.
Yeah, you get excited about it.
Yeah.
Number two, religion creates for the human mind a spiritualized consciousness of divine reality based on and by faith derived from antecedent concepts of moral values and coordinated with superimposed concepts of spiritual values. Religion thereby becomes a censor of moral affairs, a form of glorified moral trust and confidence in reality, the enhanced realities of time and the more enduring realities of eternity.
So it basically creates for our mind a remembrance always of what our divine morals are and the way we should react to other beings and our morals, and how it moves us from this life into the Morancha life. Right?
Faith becomes a connection between moral consciousness and the spiritual concept of enduring reality. Religion becomes the avenue of man's escape from the material limitations of the temporal and natural world to the supernal realities of the eternal and spiritual world by and through the technique of salvation, progressive Morancha transformation.
Growth. Right? This is what happens as we go through the Moracha world. 10. Religion is man's liberator. Intelligent man knows that he is a child of nature, a part of the material universe. He likewise discerns no survival of individual personality in the motions and tensions of the mathematical level of the energy universe. In other words, we don't have any survival in the physical universe, right? Nor can man ever discern spiritual reality through the examination of physical causes and effects. So you can point your telescope as far out as it'll go, and if it went all the way to paradise, you still wouldn't discern the spiritual realities of paradise. Makes sense? You might see some physical bodies, but you wouldn't understand what you were seeing, right? This is just a picture of Christ adored. Painting. Millie, you take the next one.
A human being is also aware that he is a part of the idealization
Idealation.
Yes, additional.
Yeah, it's ideational.
Ideation.
Yeah,
ideation. He is a part of the ideational cosmos,
right.
but the concepts may endure beyond a mortal lifespan. There is nothing inherent in concept which indicates the personal survival of the conceiving personality, nor will the exhaustion of the possibilities of logic and reason ever reveal to the logician
That's good.
or to the reasoner the eternal truth of the survival of personality.
So you can sit around all you want to, for as long as you want to, and try to think through it or logically think through all this, but you will never come up with the concept of the personality of the soul, the survival of the personality of the soul. Because in concept, there's nothing akin to it, if you think about it. There's nothing in the physical world that's like that, if you think about it. There's not even something you can compare it to. You know, it's not like when a tree dies, it comes back in a morontial tree form. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So there's not. You can sit around and think about it all you want, but you won't come up with it. It's only through faith that you reach that. Right. Rodney.
The material level of law provides for
Causality.
causality, continuity,
Yeah.
the arranging response of effect to antecedent action. The mind level suggests the
Perpetuation.
perpetuation of additional continuity, the ceasing flow of conceptual potentiality from pre-existent conceptions. But neither of these levels of the universe discloses to the inquiring mortal an avenue of escape from partiality of status and from the intolerable suspense of being a transit reality in the universe, a temporal personality doomed to be extinguished upon the exhaustion of the limited life energies.
Okay, what are we saying here?
That's a
We
great
can reason through as a human being, we have children. And then our children have children. We have grandchildren. So our DNA and those things of our family traits continue on, a continuality, right? From generation to generation to generation. And we can reason through that. Yeah, I'm going to still be here because my children will have children, their children will have children, and their children will have children, and that which makes us a family and who we are, our traits, will continue on. That's why kings and queens always wanted to have heirs, right? But no matter how you think about it, You cannot come up with a continuous concept of yourself, right? Your personal personality. Except in what? Except in the concept of survival and the concept of going through the mansion worlds and finding God the Father. You can't make that logical jump unless somebody gives you that concept, right? And how do you get that concept? Through revelation. Billions of years, people thought that when they died, that was it. You know, there was nothing else.
Look what the Egyptians did.
Look what the Egyptians,
Separation.
tried to come up with something so they continue on. They knew their children continued on, but they did not know their own personal soul did. And that's what they're talking about. This, by acquiring a mortal avenue escape from partiality of status. In other words, your escape from who we are to a continuous concept. Right? Very important. Jesus was the first one to come along and say, yeah, this is what happens. You go on. Of course, who else taught that? The 5 epical revelations, Calagassa 100. They came back from that, right? From the Maracha state. Adam and Eve, they came from a more physical, long living state. Melchizedek came from a totally different being state, right? And then, of course, Jesus comes along. He says, "Yeah, there is something more than this," you know. So, and now the Urantia book tells us the pathway. Right?
It is only through the Maracha avenue leading to spiritual insight that man can ever break the fetters inherent in his mortal status in the universe. Energy and mind do lead back to paradise and deity, but neither the energy endowment nor the mind endowment or man proceeds directly from such paradise deity. Only in the spiritual sense is man a child of God. And this is true because it is only in the spiritual sense that man is at present endowed and indwelt by the Paradise Father. Mankind can never discover divinity except through the avenue of religious experience and by the exercise of true faith. The faith acceptance of the truth of God enables man to escape from the circumscribed confines of material limitations and affords him a rational hope of achieving safe conduct from the material realm, whereon is death, to the spiritual realm, wherein is life eternal.
So man on himself, by himself, can't make it to God. Okay? It's only by attaching himself to the thought adjuster, or that fragment of God, that he becomes part of God. And so that way he can ascend to stand before God the Father. The ascension point. The purpose of religion is not to satisfy curiosity about God, but rather to afford intellectual consistency and philosophic security to stabilize and enrich human living by blending the mortal with the divine, the partial with the perfect, man and God. That's what we're doing, right? It is through religious experience that man's concepts of ideality are endowed with reality. Through this fusing with the adjuster, we actually become real, right? Millie?
Never can there be either scientific or logical proof of divinity. Reason alone can never validate the values and goodness of religious experience, but it will always remain true. Whosoever wills to do the will of God shall comprehend the validity and spiritual values. This is the nearest approach that can be made on the mortal level to offering proofs of the reality of religious experience. Such faith affords the only escape from the mechanical clutches of the material world and from the error distortions of the incompleteness of the intellectual world. It is the only discovered solution in the impasse in mortal thinking regarding the continuing survival of the individual personality. It is the only passport to completion of reality and to eternity in the universe source of creation of love, law, unity, and progressive deity achievement, attainment.
Rodney.
Religion effectually burden man's sins, idealist, and forced spiritual loneliness. It enfranchises the believer as a son of God, a citizen of a new and meaningful universe. Religion assures man that, in following the theme of righteousness discernible in his soul, he is thereby identifying himself with the plan of the infinite and the purpose of the eternal. Such a liberated soul immediately begins to feel at home in this new universe, his universe.
Becomes a new child, right? A new being. Let's get to the point here.
When you experience such a transformation of faith, you are no longer a slavish part of the mathematical cosmos, but rather a liberated, volitional son of the universal Father. No longer is such a liberated son fighting alone against the inexorable doom of the termination of temporal existence. No longer does he combat all nature with the odds hopelessly against him. No longer is he staggered by the paralyzing fear that perchance he has put his trust in a hopeless phantasm or pinned his faith to a fanciful error.
He becomes unafraid of death, right? It no longer is the end. Oops. Now, rather, are the sons of God enlisted together in fighting the battle of reality's triumph over the partial shadows of existence. At last, all creatures become conscious of the fact that God and all divine hosts of well-nigh limitless universe are on their side in the supernal struggle to attain eternity of life and divinity of status. Such faith-liberated sons have certainly enlisted in the struggles of time on the side of the supreme forces and divine personalities of eternity. Even the stars in their courses are now doing battle for them. At last they gaze upon the universe from within, from God's viewpoint, and all this transformed from uncertainties of material isolation to the sureties of eternal spiritual progression. Even time itself cannot but the shadow of eternity cast by paradise realities upon moving canopy of space.
You become confident.
Yeah, even time itself becomes but the shadow of eternity cast at the paradise realities upon the moving canopy of space. So the things of this world become the shadowy non-existence of the real world, which is the universe of God, right? The Moranchian spiritual life. Presented by Melchizedek and Metatron. One more on paper. Next time, 102, the foundations of religious faith. This whole series written by the Melchizedeks about religion and faith is just amazing. You can see why they teach us in the Morancha worlds, right?
Yeah, and that's a taste of it.
Yeah. You want to say a prayer and close this camp?
Dearest Father, Mother God, how grateful our hearts are and our minds to have learned and studied the lesson tonight. We thank you for your wisdom and your path unfolding before our very eyes each moment we read and study your word. It is in our hearts that we thank you for this wonderful revelation, for the opportunity to gather together and to study. Thank you for Roger's wisdom and intelligence in interpreting for us many things that would be more difficult to understand without his interpretation as a result of his studying for so long and so intensely. It is in your name, Jesus Christ. express my epidaure. Give you thanks and praise. Amen.
Amen. And thank you for joining us at home. Please come see us again. We're still tracking along.